Hello and welcome back to another episode of Zero BS Estate Agency, the place where we strip away the fluff and talk about what really matters when it comes to building a proper estate agency career. Today, you're in for a real treat. I am joined by Barry Pulver, a man who's not just talking about changing the industry, he's doing it on a world scale. Barry is the #1 international agent at EXP Realty. He's partnered with the top agents across 17 countries, and he's living proof that you can build a world-class business without selling your soul to a corporate machine. And in this conversation, we get into the realities of moving from a traditional high street model to building your own brand, why true success always comes down to the person in the mirror, and how collaboration, not competition, is shaping the future of estate agency. This one's packed with gold for anyone serious about taking control of their career and their life. So let's get into it. Right, so Barry, can you share what initially drew you to partner with EXP Realty and how has it impacted your business approach?
Boy, yeah, absolutely. So it's a very different place now than when it was originally. So what drew me to EXP was very simple. It was two things. It was building my own brand, which is a business, an estate agency, a real estate business that comes across egotistical, but it really isn't. That is me-centered. It's my branding, it's my face, it's my logo. And the other thing was support. It's really as simple as those two. Those were really the two drawing factors. Revenue share, stock ownership, collaboration is a part of support, but all of that was not really on the radar. It was really, John, it was those two things that drew me to it. And now looking in 2025 from when I joined in 2018, I mean, I was a fairly new agent when I joined EXP then. And at this point, I mean, I had one career goal and aspiration, and that was at the end of the career. And I achieved that within about 2 years. So to say it's been a catalyst for my success would be the biggest understatement I could possibly provide for you. So it did get me everything I was looking for. I created my own brand, which I call the Exceptional Brand, powered by EXP. I have support, collaboration with some of the best, not only in the industry and my market, but in the world. And I get the opportunity to partner with them. So in between those two, it got me from being an ignorant new person to having created something that I literally only dreamed of.
Now, do you know what? It's absolutely amazing. And of course, what was going through my mind is Sting's song, I'm an Englishman in New York. I'm an illegal alien in New York. You got the big, massive British accent, but clearly smashing it in the US.
Yeah, it's been very fortunate. I wondered if you could change the lyrics of New York for North Carolina. It doesn't quite come across quite so well, but you probably have a better singing voice than me, so I'll take it. But yeah, listen, and it's ironic, I moved to America in 2010, and it was not for business reasons. It was actually a bad decision retrospectively, but everything worked out very well. And I never thought of being an estate agent before going into university in England or coming out, and now here we are. So it's amazing how one opportunity, one gamble, one risk, and really following a passion of yours can really lead you anywhere you want to go. And now, 2025 on in British estate agency, I mean, there is no limit. And that's what excites me about truly what you guys are doing and the ability to change an antiquated, this has always been the way on the high street, to now people creating a true business for themselves and a legacy for their family. Nothing better.
Yeah, no, do you know what? I certainly share that sentiment. When I was working on the high street, I was lucky enough as a negotiator, when I was negotiating a particular office, to be paid 15% of a deal. And that, so you're getting your small wage, but 15% was big money for us, because an average deal size of, say, 10 grand, that's 1,500 quid versus what my competitors were being paid. Their negotiators, maybe £1,000. So if you then put that into, say, where, I don't know, some suburbs where it's only £400,000 value for the property, the agent charging a really small fee at 1%, that means 10% to the negotiator is 400 quid. If that negotiator is crushing it for their clients, I'm going to strongly suggest joining a self-employed model. Yeah, certainly something like EXP, because If you're crushing it for a business and you can have the same level of discipline for yourself, why not? Why not?
That's the biggest question. And it's too good to be true. It's too easy. But for those who truly do understand the reason for their successes themselves and can keep that motivation and consistency along with it is massive. I lived most of my life in Bushy Heath, so just outside of London in Hertfordshire. The house prices there blow my mind. And it's always been the same estate agencies, and you walk in, and again, now I come from an American mindset of sort, and excuse the accents maybe a lure, but it really blows my mind how things have always been the same way. And like you say, you work bloody hard for what you do, and it doesn't matter where you are in the world. For the majority of people, their house, their dwelling is their biggest financial asset and responsibility, and for that to be taken care of is a huge I guess kind of gamble and risk from them as well. And they have so much emphasis in the individual who's there to help them. Why would that individual not get compensated beyond fairly? Because as we're seeing in this day and age, 9 times out of 10, the reason for its success is the agent. Doesn't really matter the agency behind them. It's one person, it's that bespoke feel, and it's that, hey, I'm calling you because I want your help. Doesn't matter the shop front behind you. It amazes me.
Mm. Now, do you know what? That is so true, because no one calls up the office to speak to the office. They call up the
Yeah.
office to speak to the individual.
Absolutely. And I think, it's always hard. It always takes the pioneer. And that's why I'm extremely thankful for Adam Day responding to a very ignorant person in North Carolina and the timing being right for him, because the hardest part is the adoption rule. It always takes the early adopters, which are the hard ones, to get the door slammed on them. 99 times out of 100, but it is those of you who are seeing a self-employment space as not only the way forward, but the only way to fairly compensate and enjoy an industry that for me is the best in the world. And
Mm.
it's so hard going out on your own to do that. But I think now the proof of concept is really showing people that, hey, I know we're in 2025, but in 2027, things are going to look very different.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And here's just before we sort of move on, if I can just drag it back ever so slightly, you're clearly passionate about real estate slash estate agency. You're really passionate about what EXP are achieving. Where does all that passion come from, Barry?
Blimey, what a question. I think the passion comes now with seeing the impact it has for others who have taken this journey alongside me, which is really strange to say. I've always advocated and yet never followed through with focus on the process. And I've always been one, sadly, and in my own defense, work in progress of it needing the result to be there and then dragging myself back in. But I think at this point now, 7 or 8 years on with EXP and seeing what is happening to many partners of mine around the world and the impact it's truly having on them, and they're working less and making more money and moving into their dream homes and spending time with their family and having a bigger impact on their community. There's just something internal I can't really put into words, John, to be honest, that it's just truly an authenticity about loving this industry, but seeing the impact it's happening and having on individuals who are making such a big gamble to back themselves into their future success. It's not so I've stumbled in. I know everybody in the UK seems to stumble into a state agency. I stumbled into real estate here and had a goal from when I got into it of having a better experience. When my wife and I bought our home, it was not a good experience. So you always come in and want to do better. But a really ignorant idea of coming in and changing property and changing real estate. I thought, you know what? Why not? I want to do it. And here we are. We're having this very conversation about this very factor. So yeah, for me, it's just vicariously seeing the success and joy of others that gets me up in the morning. Well, my son gets me up in the morning, but that gets me super excited to come to work and seeing the impact we can have.
And you mentioned just then about balancing family and business. What advice would you give to agents that are self-employed agents striving for the same balance?
So it's really hard. It's really hard. Take it from someone here who has business partnerships and a business in 17 countries, from the tip of Wales to Queensland, Australia, soon to be New Zealand, multiple time zones. I'm still taking one of my two kids to school every day and picking up that same kid at the other end of the day. So, nothing comes easy and nothing comes cheap and nothing comes for free. So you have to figure out what's important to you. And then you have to, I say you have to, this is just my experience, got to go and follow it through. Words will get you so far, but the actions behind it are everything. So it's really understanding, what do you want this business to be? I know here in America, it's funny, in 2024, so there was about 1.5 million realtors in America, about 49% of which in 2024 didn't sell a home. So there's a very big difference between a lifestyle business and a thriving business. So you got to figure out what you want it to look like for you, have the right accountability support behind you, peer-to-peer accountability, help, collaboration, mindset, and everything there. And you've got to have the right umbrella behind you that's pushing you along the way and giving you the right access to tools and systems. But for me, it's the person in the mirror. Accountability is huge, but it just comes back to the person that's wanting to make this happen. So you've got to figure out what you want it to look like. And every choice you make has to be very calculated and precise. So if you're wanting to be a £1 million agent or work at the higher echelons of the market, every potential opportunity that comes your way at the £200,000 range, why are you saying yes to it? So it's just that laser-like focus, and we're all human beings. No one's more special than the other, and we're always going to deviate from the path. But you've just got to be very focused on what that North Star is and what you want your business to be like. Have those who want to push you and be there in alignment with you along the way, and then you've just got to do it. Same question for you, though, John. How do you focus on what's important to you, with knowing that you work for yourself? You could work around the clock 24 hours a day. How do you work around that?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's again a great question, because it is hard in the sense that when you're talking about getting buy-in from family members, you're asking for buy-in from siblings or children, your kids as well. So there are a lot of sacrifices. So, for example, just before we come on here, I'm writing an ebook for sellers, which is the ebook's called Zero BS Estate Agency, same name as this podcast, and it is literally to allow them to understand what choice looks like. The thing is, though, to write that book, that means I am there for dinner. Then beyond dinner, I'm gone. Don't ask me a question. Do you know what I mean? So there's that part, and having that support network. So my wife is incredible in the sense that she's given me a lot of rope and saying, go and deliver it. Yeah, I'll support you, but you better go and deliver it. Do you know what I mean? So, but from that side, then I can take the brakes off. And then I've got to say to myself, well, what is my goal? My goal in my first year of EXP is to sell 29 homes. That's just my first year, because I understand all of what I'm doing right now is going to yield zero results immediately. But the tipping point of when I start taking those properties on and start getting them under offer and then taking others on, that's when the tipping point will happen at the beginning of next year. So I've just braced myself and been honest. This year's going to be financially tough. It is.
Yeah.
It's just that. It's just the way it is. But if we can use other examples, say for example, Alex Pelosi in Wales, same scenario. I don't think he earned his first commission for 8 months. But now flying, absolutely flying, because he's put the hard yards in. So I think personally, I'm having to push water uphill, but just with an extraordinary commitment to push that water uphill and do what's right. For example, you mentioned earlier, do you take on the 200 grand property if you really want to go for that £1 million and above echelon, right? I've just walked away, but bear in mind, this is my first ever attempt with a self-employed model, right? So there's 3 valuations I went on recently, 2 of which I've disinstructed myself before we've even begun.
Why was that?
And the reason for that was because the sellers, so it's generally 1% fee in this area, on the area that I'm operating in, and both of them were willing to pay my fee of 2%. Both of them were willing to pay me the £500 marketing contribution. So they've got skin in the game, as well as I have. So we all know that we're all pushing and driving in the right direction. The problem was there was no evidence on this earth that would suggest that what they're looking for is actually realistic. And I'm guys, I want to help, and it pains me to say that I need to walk away, but I have to. There's a third one, which is the one that I'm sort of gutted about, but that's still not sold. And if I'd have got involved in the same level as what the other agents were saying, then I'm just like all the other agents that says things that sound nice. So to a new agent, some people would say, well, John, maybe you have to be a bit more flexible. Yeah, if we weren't 100 grand out, do you know what I mean? If we're at 100 grand out, I can help. But also, I have to understand that based on past performance, if I stick to my principles, then allow the seller to go with an agent who says things that sound nice that delivers nothing but pain, then I'm now in prime position. So that now seller can see why I'm a 2% agent.
Yeah.
They can see that actually my methodology delivers results. But now I've got an untangle massive mess that's been created by another agent. So there's loads going on there. And so to be able to, I get it because it's hard and it's horrible to be able to tell your wife that you've just basically said you can't sell a house with two sellers that are beautiful and wonderful because it's being set up wrong. And your wife's sort of looking at you a bit funny that you would do that. Right. But at the same time, for me, it's about reputation. And I want the short gains. Of course I do. I want the quick wins. But equally at the same time, I recognize and realize my reputation, I want it to precede itself. So I'm looking at the long-term pain. But ultimately, if I use the example of other EXP agents that are doing it the right way, then they are now winning and winning big. I spoke to one agent earlier today, and she said to me, John, I'm going to struggle to take that referral you're trying to give me, right? Because I've got my rules are I can only take on a certain amount of properties at any one time. And if I now take on this property, that then means I'm now not taking on other properties that are waiting for me. And now I'm going to cause everyone a problem. And I don't want to do that. I want to be the agent that actually consistently delivers results. And so, yeah, sometimes Barry, I'm a bit quirky, but it's in my world, for me, it's for the right reasons for me. Yeah. To be able to make sure I deliver results.
And it's a great problem to have, especially having, you'll take X amount of properties in terms of that referral, and they're at that point. And you know what? It is really challenging. And when you look at the black and white, the numbers, a potential commission, although you weren't going to get it given the circumstances, it's also very liberating with having the ability, you and your business, to say, thank you, but no thank you. Come back to me when we're aligned. I don't know about you, but I've found some of the most liberating and best experiences, although it sounds very counterintuitive, of saying no or walking away. And funnily enough, the next deal that comes through happens quickly, works well, and everybody's happy because it's having that alignment with truly who you are, what you want your business to be.
Yeah. And the flip side of taking on a property, and I know I've done it. I know I've ended up getting a valuation wrong, or I've taken on a property that I thought I really shouldn't be taking this on, or I've been involved where I'm a sales manager and now I've got KPIs attached to me and I now need to win the instruction. And admittedly, lucky for me, I've worked for people that said go for the second sale. So, but I know others that it is like KPI driven. Why haven't you won the instruction? That's the third one you've lost. And that's it, you're out the door. Yeah. And and if I win the instruction, but it's all set up wrong, it makes me personally feel ill. And every day I now don't want to go into work because now it's a firefight. Now I'm having to try and hope and pray that somehow some buyer from somewhere is absolutely desperate and will pay anything to get that property, versus being in control and making sure my sellers are in control from day one, week one, which is then so much easier because you get all the hard stuff out in the beginning. Then the rest, all right, the conveyancing is obviously where the fun begins, where the work really starts. But if you set the tone right from the very beginning, that means everyone's relationship is watertight. The buyer and the seller, their relationship is watertight. The agent and the seller, their relationship is watertight. Same for the buyer trusts the agent. And when the buyer says, listen, I'm struggling a little bit here, John, are you sure this is the right money? And I'm like, mate, I've got all the proof in the world to say it's and so suddenly it means that I'm now in the land of referrals. I'm now in the land of actually accelerating my career. And I think I didn't realize this, but the amount of EXP agents I've ended up interviewing without realizing, because it's their name, like Luke Williams or Linda Stringer, do you know what I mean? Or Adam Mackay, or, like Jamie Fisher, not realizing truly that they were EXP agents And then finding out after the event, you're like, oh my God, who is this business? Tell me more. I'm
Success leaves
intrigued.
clues, it really does. And that's so true. But the important thing for the consumer, for the homeowner, is knowing that they're calling Adam, or they're calling Linda, or they're calling you, John. And that's who's picking up the phone. Doesn't matter in the back end, what their business it is. They are calling the individual whose phone is going to ring. They're going to hold their hand and be there accountable for them. And that's the only thing from a consumer to business owner aspect that matters. But yeah, success leaves clues. That's very funny.
Yeah. What would you say is the thing that separates EXP from maybe another self-employed model, or EXP maybe against even high street corporate independence?
You know what? I think so. When I had this in bizarre vision that EXP would do well outside of North America, and with the right leadership, and honestly, only with Adam Day, when that was created, you always have a feeling things are going to go well. But what surprises you, because EXP offers different things and more than other self-employment options, and even in the case here in America, it offers more. It's a few things that caught me by surprise. The systems, workplace is one. The power of collaboration. Again, we're all competition, theoretically. We all own our own businesses, but the fact that anybody who's having an issue or a challenge or a success is putting one post onto something like Workplace or one of our internal platforms, hey, I've got a question about this. And then within a minute, at this point, probably sooner, somebody is jumping in and offering their advice from experience and happy to help. And leadership, there's many companies. So EXP was the first, certainly, well, really in the world, to be a virtual concept of a company, certainly on such a big scale. But there are many others. But for me, it's the leadership. It's the leadership, the people who have been there in the trenches, in the front end, in real estate, in a state agency, who have been there, done it, bought the t-shirt, worn it, and thought there was something better out there and created it because it didn't exist. And then it is that collaboration and things like the EXP UK conferences and the EXP Europe conferences in America. It's that collaboration. And maybe that's where because we're all tangible shareholders in a publicly traded company on the NASDAQ, that the fact that we're not just, nothing wrong with just, because we all were there once upon a time, just estate agents and real estate agents, we're all part shareholders of a multi-billion-dollar company, and our say matters. And I think with that, it just creates a bond and collaboration and support network that's never been seen before. So I think a combination between the leadership, and one thing I love about this is the leadership created a company where the agent is the customer, not the end consumer, not the homeowner, but the agent is the customer. So all the decisions that can be made are done with the agent in mind, not the end consumer. And I think that is the difference. The quality of caliber of a human being, an agent, anywhere in the world, not everybody, but the majority with EXP, and the leadership within the model are the two things that cannot be replicated and cannot be copied.
Barry Pulver, thank you so much for coming on this podcast. Thank you so much for agreeing to do it. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I really, really, really love your insights.
It's my pleasure. Keep up the great work. Thank you very much.
That's a wrap for today's episode. A huge thank you to you, Barry, for joining me. Honestly, what a powerful conversation. And Barry's not just another agent throwing buzzwords around. He's someone who's walked the walk, bet on himself, and built something truly exceptional. Not just for himself, but for every agent he's partnered with around the world. He is literally living proof that when you back yourself, when you take ownership, and when you stay laser focused on what truly matters, there is no limit to what you can build. If there is one thing that I want you to take away from today's episode, is that success doesn't come easy. But equally, it doesn't come from crossing your fingers and hoping that the market saves you. It comes from the person staring back at you in the mirror every single day.